right, that's better. All right, we good now? We good? Everybody back? This will be my last time, I think, at CMLS.
I just heard they've already asked you to.
They've already asked me to exit, yeah. Anyway, so today asked me to help with this panel about subscribers and what they want from the MLS. And so we've put together three amazing panelists to share with you some thoughts about how they interact with the MLS. I've asked them to talk to other members in their market and online about what they think. And so we've got a lot to share with you. So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. We'll start with Aaron. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Aaron Farmer. I am a broker out of Austin, Texas. I am also the president for the Austin Board of Realtors this year. Come on. Woo. All right. Come on. That's the best I can get. I brought my whole board out here, and that's the best I can get. Anyway, I am I've been a licensed realtor since 1995. I got my broker's license in 2000, and I started a company called Texas Discount Realty. And I was one of the first openly discount brokers in the Austin and Texas area. So I still go by the name, and I've had a strong, long history in standing up for what I believe. 2002, I sued the Texas Real Estate Commission over some rules that I thought were antitrust type rules, and the Department of Justice kind of took my side on it, and we had a long battle, and it ended up in 2006. I ended up providing expert testimony before a U.S. House of Representatives committee, and on that committee was also on that panel, which I spoke at, was Greg Kelman and also Jeff Lewis. So there was some heavyweights. Now at the time we were all pretty much nobodies, I think, and now now I'm still a nobody, but I'm just the president. But those two guys are way up there. But I then got asked what I knew about a Department of Justice investigation into the Austin Board of Realtors, and I said I know quite a bit about it. And the board president, I said I kind of turned you guys in, and the board president said, well, let's go to lunch, and he took me to lunch and said, you're not a bad guy. You know, you should get involved in board politics. And so got involved, started showing up to stuff, and just kept showing up. And somehow I became president. So the world is run by those who show up. I am a broker. I have about 50 agents around Texas. I'm a member of 7 different MLSs in the state. I am also a volunteer with a lot of different things. I'm on an HOA board and do some other stuff. And my favorite thing that I do is I'm a head football coach of my son's football team, flag football team. So,
right on.
That's and we're called the Not the Longhorns from Austin, Texas. So, anyway,
Georgia.
All right. My name is Georgia Prepara. I am a broker here in Vegas. Got about 230 agents, 235, and I am also the current MLS chair, which I absolutely love being able to be a part of. And I've been in real estate for going on about almost 12 years now. Before real estate, I went to college to be a computer engineer. And while I loved it, it got to the point where it was a little bit of a drag. I wasn't loving what I was doing every day, and so I learned very quickly I have got to love what I do. I have to be able to get up every morning and say, I get to go to work today. And that wasn't happening, so I found real estate, and real estate found me. And, over the years, became the broker. And second passion is teaching. I have the privilege of being part of our faculty at our association as well, teaching post-licensing, CE, and anything else they let me teach.
Okay.
All right. My name is Gary Wise. I've been selling real estate for right at 20 years, and my wife and I own a small boutique real estate brokerage that we really treat more like a lab, because what we do is we meet with a lot of technology vendors. We vet their technologies, their best practices. We bring them into our brokerage. We test them out. Then we take the best in breed, and we create our own processes and systems and workflows. And then what we do is we take it and then train thousands of realtors across North America on exactly what we're doing, all the way from lead generation, lead conversion, advertising, marketing, digital use, listing presentations, buyer presentations, et cetera, through a separate company that we run called the Paperless Agent. And a lot of what we do is we partner with MLSs and boards across the country to bring education to the members, the agents, and the brokers.
Okay. So when we talked about so many different things in our phone calls setting up for this, right? We wanted to make sure, this panel could go a lot of different ways, right? It could go off the rails toward just kind of we're all sharing the same Kool-Aid, and it could go off the rails into, some kind of bad thing about, complaints about every little thing. But somewhere in the middle, there's space where we could share some things, hopefully, that might actually impact some change. And they might be small incremental things that would make a difference to users. So, Aaron had a lot of success. We all reached out in various ways, but a lot of it was online, private groups and public. And Aaron got a lot of response to some of the things that happened there. So I can't wait to get to some of that. But before I do that, though, before we talk about how the MLS could be better or different, tell me, what does the MLS do well today in your market or as you view it?
Well, I think the best thing that we do is that we cooperate well together. I think to me, that's the best function of the MLS. I was reminded of the total anarchy that it would be if we didn't have the MLS. A couple of weeks ago, one of my agents was trying to do a commercial transaction, and was looking, and he started emailing me all these 7- and 8-page contracts to sign just to show a house, and it just reminded me of, this is why we have the MLS. This is the beauty of the MLS, is this right here. It's not the data. It's not all the other BS that we do. That is the most important thing to me. I mean, it just the time that just sucked out of me just trying to go through all these contracts. In the cooperation in the compensation field, that's the greatest thing that we've ever invented.
I agree. That was always one of my top loves of the MLS. But also in addition to that, is technology is moving faster and faster, and to have a platform to vet new and different technology, and not just getting the newest, shiniest, most trendiest tool, but really finding tech that can impact the individual member's life and business in a positive and productive way.
So for me, early in my career, I struck out and started selling commercial real estate. And what I found very, very quickly was it is a nasty, dirty, good old boy network that lacks any ounce of ethic. And it was awful. I'm not kidding. The first deal that I tried to do.
This is us holding Gary back, by the way.
Yeah, they said, Gary, we're going to have to pull you back a little bit. So this is me withholding a lot. But what I found is that it was a good old boy network. There is not any sort of accountability to providing accurate data, to cooperating with other brokers. And in fact, most of the deals I tried to do, I found our offers were never even submitted to the seller because the listing broker wanted to double end the deal. And I look at that and I'm like, this is fundamentally like the worst thing that we could do for our entire industry, for buyers and for sellers. And I mean, my God, people, we have a fiduciary responsibility for the consumer. And the MLS facilitates that, because what it does, as a seller's broker, my job is to expose properties to the greatest number of potential buyers out there. And one thing that the MLS absolutely offers us the opportunity to do is to get that out there, because of the cooperation that we have with other facets online. We're going to talk about something that Aaron was talking about later. I'm not going to get into that because that's your deal, but that was really interesting. Now, another thing I do want to mention, and there's a gentleman in this audience. His name's Cord Shiflett, and there he is right there. And so Cord and I went to high school together, and we got into real estate at the same time. But that's not the story. The story is we both attended a luxury home auction in Austin, and the house had previously been on the market for $16 million. It was on the market for a while. They received a cash offer of $10 million, rejected it. Then they decided to put it. What's that? $13 million. Okay, sorry. Cash offer of $13 million. They rejected it. So then they decided, you know what? Let's go out and auction this home, which actually constricted the number of buyers, and then also forced the seller at the end of the day, I'm using Cord's words here, is it actually forced the seller to accept a price that may or may not be market value. And that ended up being $6.5 million. And so what does the MLS help us do? Avoid that. Sorry.
Right on.
I had some 4-letter words in there, and they said, "You do hold on, not this time."
We got that button back there. 3-second delay. Yeah. Okay. So in all of these Facebook groups and the conversations that we had, there were a lot of small, granular details that I think some of which can be really, really useful, but a lot of them fell into one of two buckets. Either into, what Brian Barrera was talking about this morning in terms of telling the story better. A lot of times people complaining about MLS features that already exist. How many of you get complaints about things you already do that members don't know about, right? So either in that category or in what I call elegance of use, right? So, I use an iPhone versus any other thing because of its elegance of use. Hardware, but definitely software, right? Versus anything else, right? And so we've had a lot of hallway conversations just today about elegance of use at the platform level. So and a lot of this I think calls out the platform providers more than the MLS local provider. So talk about, you can go anywhere you want now from the questions that we saw online, any range of stuff that jumped out to you of things we should share.
Yeah, so Matt had asked, we'd had a conference call last week, and Matt asked if we would go out and reach out to some members. And I have, 1,000 friends or something on Facebook, probably half of them are realtors. And I posted on Facebook on my personal page, hey, I've got a few questions for you about the MLS. What do you think about this? And it was just crickets. Nobody said a thing. Not even a like. My mother didn't even like it. She's liked everything I've ever put on Facebook for the last 10 years. She's liked it all. And then I called Cord, who again is one of our board of directors members at the Austin Board of Realtors. He's also one of our top agents in Austin. And I said, we have this thing in Austin where we have all these secret Facebook groups. We have 3 secret Facebook groups with membership ranging from about 3,000 to about 5,000 in each group. So one has 3,000, one has 4,000, one has 5,000. And these are all just members. It's all member-driven. No staff. They won't even let staff in there. They have, if you request to join the membership, they go and they look up your name on the roster. If you're not an Austin Board of Realtor member, they won't even allow you to join this secret group. And I'm sure a lot of you have it out there, have your own version of this in your markets. So I posted these 2 questions on there, and within 2 hours I had 30 comments of just varying things. Most of it was complaints. One of my questions was, what do you love about the MLS? I don't think I had one person to say what they loved about the MLS. It was all about fields and different things. And one of the takeaways that was probably the best of what we read, that wasn't just, we need a field that covers 1.5 garages instead of 2, something like that. It just some of it was crazy like that. But we need a common theme was we need a Facebook easy button. So when we put something in the MLS, we use Matrix, and maybe Joe Happy and the CoreLogic folks are out there and they can listen to this. But we want an easy button so we can when we post a listing, we can hit, you want it on Facebook, click, and then it pops up on Facebook. I mean, and that's what our members were asking for. That was one of the common themes that went through that.
Georgia, you want to?
I agree. That one came up from a lot of our membership as well, and we called it more of like a syndication button, where we have the ability through multiple steps to actually create a hyperlink and post it on Facebook through Matrix, but it takes a few steps. I mean, what if a big giant button that just said syndicate here, and you were able to choose Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, wherever you wanted it to go, and then whatever selection you made was actually formatted properly, because sometimes you try to slam a Facebook ad onto Twitter, and it just doesn't translate very well, and it looks a little sloppy, and we don't want to have that. But a lot of things came up with, I asked the same questions of some of our membership, and I got, a few of the questions ended up just being how-to things. And what I noticed was they're like, I wish it would do this. And I said, well, did you see that big giant button that says it does this? And they said, oh, that's what that meant? And yes. So as an instructor at heart, I realized that there is I think this gap could be closed a little bit with, well, actually a lot, with some significant training. But also, whether you're on the committee or on staff, I think we have to be very thoughtful about the questions we ask. I decided a while ago that I'm going to write a book, How My Agents Are Like My Toddlers. It's remarkable, the similarities sometimes in conversing. None of my agents are here, so I can say that. But one of the questions I asked my agents is, what do you want? And they just had like the most puzzled look. And I realized I'm asking the wrong question. If I were to ask my kid, what do you want? Or what do you want to eat? A cookie. Well, yeah, that sounds great, but we all know that that's not a good idea. So when asking the question, what do you want? I think the scope was entirely too big, and I actually needed to help them. They don't know what they want. They think they do, or they have an idea what they want, but through the process, they realize they want something else. We're in real estate. If any one of you ever took a client out, you ended up selling them the absolute opposite of what they sat in front of you, telling you that they were adamant they had to have that in the beginning. And I don't think the agents are any different. I think that's human nature. I just don't think that's consumer nature. And what I found is I needed to be very specific. Well, what do you think will actually reduce the time of this? What else could we do to help you bring that property to market a little bit quicker, to help figure out how to shorten the sales cycle? So I think from the MLS committee point of view, as well as the MLS staff point of view, is we need to be able to figure out how to guide them to what they want, because we've got over 13,000 members, and if I said, what do I want, half of them wouldn't have any idea, and then the other half might throw out just a random answer to be quick about answering the question.
You'd have 13,000 more data fields, right?
I'm sorry?
13,000 more data fields.
There you go. So those are some of the things.
So a little history about me is I was a firefighter and medic for 10 years. And a fundamental principle that they teach as you become a firefighter is this. It's the KISS principle. Now, when I was a firefighter, it was keep it simple, stupid. And then I learned from a good friend of mine. She goes, oh, honey. She's from the South, can you tell? Oh, honey, it is keep it simple, sweetheart. And I go, okay. So I take that into absolutely everything I do at the Paperless Agent in training and educating realtors. Because one thing that we need to understand is fundamentally, what is it that agents are doing? They are taking care of their customers. And if you look at, like, what is it that agents are really, really good at? Loving their people, loving their clients, helping take care of them. And it's customer service. And so if we know that that is what they need, then what we need to do as leaders in this industry is keep it simple, sweetheart, for them, so that it's not so freaking complicated for them to find data. It is not so difficult for them to share properties and market them online. It is not an enormous beast to go into the MLS and try and find what they want. Here's the thing, is I used to run a software company. And my chief engineer came to me one time because I was talking to the sales and marketing team, and we went to the engineering team and said, okay, look, this is what the realtors want. My wife actually created the very first ASP transaction management and CRM platform in real estate. It was online before Top Producer was. And so I'm running that company, and we're asking agents, what do you want? And so we go to our engineers and say, go build this. And so my engineer took me over to the coffee pot. And he said, Gary, let's talk about something. There is form versus function. And this coffee pot right here is a clear example of what happens when form overtakes function. And I said, well, what do you mean? So he took the coffee mug or pot and started pouring coffee. And, you know, it's one of those that you got to hit the button and the top flips up so you can pour it right. Because what happens is if you don't and you just start pouring, coffee goes everywhere. And he said, it's a beautiful coffee mug or pot, but it lacks the functionality. However, what I see in the real estate industry is the MLS is flipped. It is all function. It's all function, and there's no form, there's no design, there's no beauty, there's no simplicity. And by the way, simplicity is hard as hell. It is difficult. Go talk to any designer of any software company anywhere in the world, and if it's beautiful and still functions really well, simplicity is so hard to do. But our software is so far on the other end of the spectrum that it's huge. Like, there's so much awesome data and functionality there, but it is ugly as hell. It is difficult to work through. And then here's what happens. I don't know if you guys know this about agents, but agents don't like change. Have you figured that one out? Like, man, you try and change anything. Oh, Austin Board of Realty. We built realtors. Sorry, realtors. We built a building, which meant we moved. Oh my God! Wait, whoa! You guys moved? It's any sort of change. However,
it's a beautiful building, by the way.
It is
a beautiful building. Y'all should all come see it. Ask Paul Hilgers. Sorry.
No, it is beautiful. What's not beautiful is our MLS. And I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of voting on let's go find a different software company to do this. And there was a company who came up and said, oh, man, like, it's simple, it's beautiful, it's easy. And it got voted down. But it's because change is so difficult for agents. And now that we've built this beast of MLS software, they're like used to it. But my gosh, how could we improve it? How can we make it easier and more beautiful for them?
Well, I want to speak to one of your points that's not related to the building. And that's about it goes back to my Facebook group and what my actual takeaway, and Matt and I were talking about all the different things that people posted and the ideas that they wanted, but my big takeaway wasn't what they said, it was where they did it. And it was all in secret Facebook groups that none of you guys can be a member of unless you're a realtor. And they were originally created for coming soon statuses. So we're in a pretty hot market, and we have this proliferation of coming soon listings. And our MLS at the time didn't have any sort of coming soon status. We actually just launched it like 2 weeks ago, and it's wildly successful already. It's hugely popular in our market already in 2 weeks. But these agents went out on their own without any staff, without any members, without any building, without anything, and created these Facebook groups on our own. It's kind of like when our realtor forefathers started MLS. They didn't need any staff or any AE to do it. They all just got together and did it on their own. So I think we've got to look at that and look at what our members are looking for, and I think that's a great example of it.
Okay.
Matt, can I say one more thing?
As long as you I think hell was on Danae's list.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I think it was.
Oh.
Yeah. As long as you keep that out. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I won't say that. So one more thing I want to mention is 3-4 years ago, something like that, I got a call from our MLS. And they said, hey, this data field that you filled out is incorrect, and we're fining you $100. Okay. I actually looked at it, and they were wrong, by the way, because I did follow the rules. It's just I didn't report it in a certain amount of time, and so you're fined. And so as the woman's on the phone, and she was horribly rude to me, I asked her this question. I said, let's back up a little bit. Let's look fundamentally. I'm a little confused here. Who is your customer? You know what she said? We're the MLS. We don't have customers. And I said, oh, I see the problem. Fast forward, all of a sudden, Tim Dane is brought in, and Tim Dane has, you guys love him as much as I do. The man is changing everything. And now, in fact, my team probably messes up on the MLS all the time, but instead of slapping down a fine, you know what happens? We get a call and say, hey, I think you may have missed something here. Let me help you get accurate data into the MLS. And guess what? No fine. And it's that flip of who is the customer and how do we take care of them, and that has got to permeate the entire industry top down.
Amen.
We did have a new building to pay for, so that was.
Oh yeah, and the new building is awesome, by the way.
All right, so with the time we have left, we're going to make room for some questions from y'all. And guys, if you could advance that slide for me. My cell phone number is going to be on the screen here in a minute, and we will take some questions from you. But before we do that, I want to go a little bit deeper on this Facebook thing. You know, I talk all the time in our conferences about how, I mean, Facebook is the internet. Facebook is oxygen right now, right? And so, you know, how powerful would it be if not only could you just post to Facebook, but, you know, run Facebook ads and do all kinds of dynamic things and, you know, riff on that a little bit if you can. You know, how could you see that working within the structure we have?
I think it would be a great idea to originate from whatever MLS system you use, because then you could create uniformity. You could overlay any of your division rules regarding advertisements, where it not necessarily all looks the same, but it complies with what it's supposed to. You know, as a broker and have 235 agents with very active voices on Facebook, I feel like the Facebook police sometimes. And our division has actually really turned their sights on the ads. So being able to create the compliance side of it, along with the flexibility of agents being able to have their own creativity, but all stemming from the MLS. Like, that's the starting point of clicking a button and being able to move it through as quickly as they can to some type of syndication outlet, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or, you know, whatever else. Perfect example, when I got into real estate, I built my business on Craigslist. And now it's kind of a dirty, gross place to go. So technology changes, and so the MLS or whatever software would actually have to be able to keep up with what are the new trending syndication outlets. And when it's centralized and made available, we will be quicker to the market at each of those outlets.
Well, I think we have to figure out how to reach our members on Facebook better. You know, ABOR has of course, everybody has a Facebook page, and we post stuff on Facebook, and it's crickets again. I can't even get our directors to hit like on it. I mean, and so we have to figure out how to reach those members, because they're not looking at our Facebook pages from our associations as much as they are going to these private sites, or their friends, or their brokerage sites. And I think as an association, and this is wearing my association hat, I think we have to figure out how to reach those members through Facebook a lot better, and because that's where they're all at. I mean, when you have, you know, half or a third or half of your membership in secret groups because they don't want, you know, you to know, they don't want the board to know what they're talking about, or the association, I think that's a problem. I think that's an issue that we as AEs and associations and executives, we got to fix that. And I don't know the answer. Maybe Matt has it. I don't know. Maybe Gary probably has it.
Not about that, but what I can tell you is, I study Facebook a lot because at Paperless Agent, we train on Facebook advertising extensively.
So, hang on, before you go down that,
okay.
Before we came on the stage, the last thing Gary and I talked about was this. And Gary, you threw out some numbers to me about your spend on Facebook today that was jaw-dropping. So, and I want you to share those numbers because I think it's pretty telling, given the kind of business that you're running and
right.
the kind of business that today's realtors should be running, where the focus is and where the dollars are.
So a few stats that you might want to write down. Number one is that 50% of people who ever get online in the world are on Facebook. The second stat is, on average, the person who gets on Facebook every single day is on Facebook for 50 minutes. 50. That is according to the New York Times. So if we know that our customer is there, a fundamental of sales and marketing is that we go to where they are. And then what we do is we give them what they want. So what Matt was alluding to is the way I am reaching the real estate agent population across North America is this. At Paperless Agent, we spend $55,000 a month on Facebook advertising. And we're a small company. We're not an association like you guys are. Our target market, of course, is over 1 million agents, but we are target marketing down to the demographic of who that agent is. We're targeting down to their household income, because I know that if an agent is making $15,000 a year, they probably can't afford our training. But I also know if an agent has a household income of like $500,000 to $1 million a year, they don't need my training. So I'm not going to spend the money to attract them. But we're spending $55,000 a month to engage them. So just think if your MLS spent a fraction of that money getting in front of them, which, by the way, they're not going to look at your feed. They're not going to go to your feed and look at it. They're going to ignore it until you put enticing messages out there in an ad that show up on their Facebook feed. Which, oh, by the way, I also learned this, is that you can get 70% accuracy to get in front of those agents by taking their cell phone numbers, uploading them into your Facebook ad, and then target marketing them. They'll start responding.
One more thing before we jump off of that. So, do you do a lot? Do you retarget and put a different message in front of the people who clicked the ad, the first ad?
Oh, we actually just hired a Facebook expert, full-time salary, and he is doing split testing, and then split testing on the splits, 8 layers deep. Split, 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 and he sits there all day and watches this stuff to see the response.
I think we might have lost the people. So, talk about. That's what I was trying to get you to talk about, though. So you put an ad out there for rest of world, right? 1 million people, no click yet, no contact. Now they click on the ad. Now what happens?
So what happens is it's a call to action. They get redirected to a landing page, and we have an offer of value for them on that page. And they either fill it out or they don't, and we track what they're doing. Did they fill it out or not? Oh, if they don't, that offer that we made for them, probably not the right person, the right message, or the right time. So then what we say is, okay, to your point, that didn't work for them. Let's split test this into a different offer. Oh, well, that same group, 34% clicked through on the first ad, 38% on the second, and then we're also tracking the cost per click down to the penny. And we see the stuff that's really performing and the stuff that isn't, and as soon as it's not, we shut it off. And then we split test that split. Now, it can get really, really complicated, but for people in your marketing department, you have to have people in your marketing department who are experts on Facebook advertising. And they will know what I'm talking about.
So one of the questions that came in is right on this, I think. How do you change the perception of subscribers that the MLS is just a necessity to be in business versus a significant value proposition to them with cooperation and compensation? This is where I was trying to push with this, is that, if we all think that Facebook is the universe right now, and the MLS is supposed to be about the data and then pushing that data forward, why is there no Facebook piece? Okay.
Well, a fundamental flaw in that is that we think we know what our customers want. But we don't. It's same in working with buyers and sellers in real estate. If you say, okay, I'm going to target market a luxury client, and you're not a luxury person living a luxury lifestyle, you don't know what they want until you ask them what they want. The number one thing you give a customer is you give them what they want. And if you don't know what that is, then you have a problem. Yeah.
All right, we get a couple more questions with the time we have. So How do agents rationalize their fiduciary duty to market a listing to the broadest possible audience versus the coming soon phenomenon?
Well, I think in our market, how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to work, is that our coming soon is for a 14-day time period, and there's not supposed to be any showings of the property. Now, we see it in some of the remarks, and some of the agents don't know the rules that we've set out, and that's an education component. But it's really supposed to be for someone who's painting their house, getting the yard done, getting it ready, and they want people to know that, hey, this is going to truly be coming soon. There's not going to be any showings until 14 days from now. And then after that, the status dies, or it has to roll into active status.
So your point is you're not using it as a pocket listing and trying to pre-sell it.
What we're actually trying to do is to get all those pocket listings that agents that aren't putting it out there or putting it on these private Facebook pages. We're trying to get it out to all of our membership, not just to the 3,000, the 4,000, the 5,000 that belong to these groups. So we're trying to just to bring it out of the closet.
Georgia?
Well, I think the idea of coming soon listings kind of rise and fall based on the trends and the level of inventory. I noticed a significant increase in coming soon listings when our inventory is either dropping or deals are slowing down, transactions are slowing down. And unfortunately, I think the intent of double ending is what does motivate that. So I think that's a tough one to try to tackle, because I really can't think of any reason why exposing a listing to only your database is a better choice than exposing it to the 13,000 other agents.
So it's a methodology thing, though, right? As long as it's going through the system as coming soon or
right,
something like
and
that.
we do have the compensation field out there. And in the first week that it was out there, roughly 1/6 of all of the inventory on the hot sheet was put in the coming soon status. So if that tells you anything, that's enormous.
Look, it gets down to the law. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our sellers. And if we're doing pocket listings and selling them without going on the MLS, that's a problem. Why? Because we're not exposing it to the greatest number of potential buyers. And I love the fact that Austin Board of Realtors, I love the fact that Austin Board of Realtors and Actress MLS said, oh, no, we're going to get involved here because this is a problem. We are breaking our fiduciary responsibilities to these buyers and sellers. So look, Apple Watch, small company. Apple started promoting the watch 18 months before you could buy the darn thing. 18 months. What that's called is seeding the marketplace. I tell you, I do pre-MLS all the time. Facebook ads, Google, everywhere. I have landing pages. I am promoting the heck out of it. Do I allow a single one of our agents to sell that home before it goes on the market? No. Not going to. Did you see that?
Yes,
not going to do it. Why? Because it is a problem in our industry and it needs to stop.
Probably last question, maybe one more. Do you fear Facebook becoming overrun with house ads, listing ads? If we create an easier way for agents to share the listings, that's enough.
It already has. And Facebook is nothing more than a placement center now. It is. It used to be about this social thing. Now, when I communicate with my kids, I'm on Snapchat. I'm on Instagram. Yeah. That's where I build my personal relationships. Facebook, quite honestly, for me, is all business.
But it works.
It works. Why? Because that's where the consumer
marketplace it is. Yeah.
Yes.
And the ad targeting is what the difference is. That's what you were saying. Like, don't just put your listings all over your feed. That's not where it works, right?
Well, you're in violation of Facebook rules if you put it on your own personal profile feed, and they will shut your account down for 3 years if you do that.
Yeah. But once you've targeted properly, if you're hitting your audience right, then the problem goes away, right? Because hopefully you're nailing members who are audience that is particularly interested in those kinds of houses, right?
Yeah. In the past week alone, we got 45 highly qualified leads from Facebook advertising. And by the way, that's at Good Life Realty, and we're spending, I want to say, $1,500 a month on that. So, it's not like we're breaking the bank, but we're generating highly qualified leads.
Closing thoughts, Aaron?
Hope to see all of you in Austin next year.
Yeah, I've heard the party's going to be wild. Boots and hats and all
Boots
that.
and hats,
Yeah.
yep. Lots of liquor.
I think Brian from the 1,000-watt talk earlier really hit the nail on the head by the communication and the connection and being the MLS and the association being able to tell the story back to their agents, because there is a disconnect now. So make sure you're asking the right questions and you're asking the right people the right questions.
I believe everybody in this room offers an enormous amount of value to your agent population, your customer base. The communication is where I think it's lacking. There is something called instructional design. In fact, my partner at Paperless Agent is getting his master's in instructional design because we have got to learn exactly how our agents are learning online, because that's where they're going for their education. That's where they want to learn from us. So we have got to communicate. We've got to message that to them better. And there are 3 ways you do this. Number 1, you got to make sure it's the right person. Number 2, you got to make sure it's the right message. And number 3, you've got to make sure that you're messaging it at the right time.
How about some applause for these guys? Stand up.
Good job. We're going to dance more?
Thank you very much.
We're going to dance more?
Can we dance more? Can we have a little more shake it off?